Mistress of Darkness who curses babies to die. Today we're talking about Maleficent. I have done a story on Sleeping Beauty before, but today I do actually just want to focus on Maleficent, and it was quite tricky to try and get just information about her, but I've done my best. It's going to be quite informal and chaotic because it's me, but yes, we're going to get into it and talk about Maleficent today. We're not going to focus too much on the Sleeping Beauty story, but more the person, the character, Maleficent. So, also, if you want any more deeper dives on certain aspects of Maleficent, because it's very interesting to me, I'm sure you can see why. Yeah, let me know. So, there's a really older version that I could find, actually, like an ancient Greek kind of story. It's really interesting. I'm going to try and pronounce it correctly, but it's me. So, a poet named Dionysia, I think that's how you say it. If I'm pronouncing it wrong, I'm so sorry. I don't mean it on purpose. I can't pronounce things. Yeah, she wrote, I don't know if it was classed as a poem or a story. It was quite long for a poem, but the ancient Greeks, you know what they're like. But yeah, basically about Artemis and Aurora. Sorry, not Aurora. Aura. Sounds like Aurora. It's my dyslexic brain. Basically had a falling out. Basically, Aura was quite rude to Artemis. She don't want to do that. And also, if you want a full video on this story, because it's long and very disturbing and crazy, let me know. I might just do it anyway, because it is a very interesting poem, story, whatever it's classed as, but it's messed up. And it's dark and twisted, so I think I will anyway. But let me know if you do specifically want it, and I'll try and do it sooner. Anyway, Artemis and Aura had a falling out. Aura was quite rude to Artemis, actually, in this poem story. So Artemis seeks out Nemesis, and they come up with this really... I'm not going to get into it now, because again, I'm probably going to make a video on it, but it's pretty twisted. A punishment, someone say, for Aura, and it's pretty messed up and pretty twisted, and I'm gonna have to write it a very specific way so that I'm allowed to upload it, but a messed up punishment for her. So Nemesis, it seems like the way it all sort of comes about, and how wrathful Nemesis seems to be to Aura, is it seems like the original Maleficent, because the clue's in the name. Nemesis, she will take revenge. She will cause a bit of chaos. She can come across quite evil, and she does punish Aura, who sounds like Aurora. So, as far back as I can find, and it makes sense, I think that is the original Maleficent. And then obviously we get onto the old Italian authors and Charles Perrault and the Brothers Grimm versions, in which there's two combinations they fall into. It's either an old spinning woman that accidentally, I don't think she's evil, but ends up helping Aurora to prick a finger or get flax stuck in a finger that makes her go to sleep, which we covered in the Sleeping Beauty videos. If you're interested, it'll be on my playlist somewhere. Or the evil fairy version of Maleficent that purposefully is scorned because there wasn't enough gold plates for her to be invited to the baby's naming or christening or birth or celebration party. And is scorned, so curses the child. So they're the old Brothers Grimm, Charles Perrault versions of those stories. Again, I'm not getting into them because I covered them more in my Sleeping Beauty video. I'm just quickly covering my bases to get on talking about the character Maleficent, and I'm going to focus on main two today. I just thought it'd be a nice bit of information, just throw in the original Nemesis, which seems like the original Maleficent. And I am going to do this story because it's going to take a full video, but I'm going to have to be really careful on how I script it and try and stick to the scripts because it's messed up. So I'm going to say. So today we are going to focus, surprisingly for me, because I don't usually do this, focus on more the Disney version of Maleficent. And the newer Disney version of Maleficent, we know the Angelina Jolie version of Maleficent. So the original one, the design is actually based on a dragon. And in this story, and if you haven't seen it, where have you been? Because Disney Sleeping Beauty, come on. Anyway, she's based on a dragon, her look, and in the story, the film, she does turn into a dragon towards the end, which I'll speak more about in a minute. So the whole horns and this, you know, the scaly look of the horns and the way Kate flows and the colours, that's all based off like a dragon-like appearance, and to give her like an evil, dark, powerful presence and form. Also, the original cartoon Sleeping Beauty Disney Maleficent, she's pretty nasty. Like, I can see, yeah, you're upset because you didn't get invited to the baby's christening. I understand that. She feels slighted, and she, you know, I would too. I don't know if I'd curse a baby over it, but she feels slighted. Fair enough, you weren't invited. But what she does, she doesn't just curse the baby, and as we know, one of the fairies helps to sort of lighten the curse, as it were, because you can't fully just take it away, but lessen the impact. But not only does she do that, she lures Aurora, or Briar Rose, however you want to refer to her, Sleeping Beauty. If you've seen the film, you'll know, and if you haven't, just watch it if you want to understand more. She lures her to a room where there is a spinning wheel and gets her to prick her finger to fall into the death-like sleep. So she does that to make the curse happen, which is also pretty mean. She doesn't only do that, but she captures Prince Philip so that he can't rescue her, because he's locked up in her dungeons. And then, as we know, spoilers if you haven't seen it, but if you haven't, well, it's just what you do in real life. The fairies come and help him and give him a sword of truth and help him free from his shackles and escape Maleficent's castle. But then, because this Maleficent is pretty nasty, bit Nemesis-like, she creates a wall of thorns around the castle that are really big and sharp, and he has to use this magic sword of truth from the fairies, and he hacks away the thorns, and that really pees her off, because she's like, right, I've locked you up, you got out there, I create this barrier of thorns, and this bloody sword has foiled that plan, so she's getting really annoyed. Then she turns into the dragon, this big scary black and purple dragon that's breathing fire and gnashing her teeth at him, and he flings the sword of truth at her and stabs her, and she dies. So that's the cartoon Disney Maleficent, which does just seem pretty nasty for no real good reason. Like, we get you slightly, can't you all just tell everyone off and give them what for, and just slightly inconvenience the days, just a light curse, hex. But no, she really goes for it. Also, Briar Rose hasn't done anything wrong, but that's how a lot of evil fairies work. I'm not going to get into my opinion about evil and how it's represented through different storytellings throughout the centuries, but we're not doing that yet. Right, the Disney version with Angelina Jolie. We're going to talk about that Maleficent now. So, she is a fairy that lives in the woods, or what's it called? There's a name for it. I can't remember. If you've seen it, you'll know what I mean. But the wild woody area that sort of surrounds the kingdom. And the king has always sort of wanted it for himself, because there's power and magic there, and he wants power for himself, and he doesn't like the idea of magical beings. And so she's sort of like the protector. She's like a protector energy, along with the other forest spirits and the trees and all the magicalness, you know, that you get in an enchanted woods forest. She's a protector, and she's not inherently evil or bad, and she's friends with the magical folk there. And she has these beautiful wings and also the horns, but they look more like natural. They have like a brown look, like they just naturally come from her, which in the story they obviously had. It looks like it changes later on in the film or the story, which I'm going to get into. And she makes friends with a boy called Stefan, who isn't originally, he's not like a prince or a king, he's just a boy. And they make friends, and that's lovely, but obviously as he gets older, they drift apart, and he seeks more power because he's sick of being poor and looked down on, and he wants power and money for himself. So not only do they just drift apart, but he basically betrays and violates her. And in the story, in the film, it is cutting off her beautiful wings, which is very violating and painful and betraying. He drugs her, basically. He gives her a drink and puts something in it, and she falls asleep. feeling safe next to what was her friend. Now, in this version, I can see why Maleficent gets pissed off. So, he violates her trust, and you can see this as just for exactly what it is, which is cutting off her wings, or for the other message, which is violating a woman. Because when she wakes up, not only does she know her wings are gone, but she's in so much pain and bleeding and has been violated in a disgusting way. So that you can also use that as an allegory for something else. Some people take it one way or another. Some people just see it as, oh yeah, he's just betrayed it because he cut her wings off. Interpret it however you wish. But either way, he horribly and violently betrayed this fairy, this powerful, forceful, good. She was good. And she still is good deep down as well, and we're going to see that. So that's really sad, but he does it to get power and earn reward from the king, and then when the king dies, he takes over and he's king. Again, if you haven't seen it, where have you been? And obviously, spoilers. If you don't want any spoilers for it, don't watch this one. And if you don't really know what I'm talking about, go watch it, because it's a good one, actually. I actually do enjoy that film. So he becomes king, marries the king's daughter, he becomes king, all that. They have a little girl. And when she finds out he has this little girl and he's got all this power from betraying and harming her in such a devastating way, because the wings they are part of her, they are actually physically part of her, but they're also part of her power and her magic. So she gets so angry that he's gained so much fortune and used her. So she does go to the celebration of the baby's birth and curses the baby, which again I don't think is a right thing to do. I think you should bestow it upon whoever betrayed you and harmed you, but it's a story. So she does that. And there are no fairies in this one too. Or there might be. No, I can't remember. Damn it, it's been a while since I watched it. No, I think she just curses her to sleep like death, I think, in this. But either way, there's a curse. It ends up being a sleep like death. And the only thing that she says can undo this, which breaks Stefan and his wife's heart, because I'm going to tell you in a minute, the only way to reverse it is by true love's kiss. And this breaks their heart because they know she doesn't believe in true love. Because at this point she doesn't, because she's been betrayed by the only person she truly loved, who was Stefan. And he betrayed her so violently, she no longer believes in love. So this is devastating. And just like the other stories, like this end by Rose, Aurora off with the fairies to, I say fairies, they're pretty useless. Yeah, it is fairies, sorry, there are fairies in this one. I've had so many different versions in my head. They're pretty useless. And she's watching at first, like, hating this little girl she calls a beastie. At first she hates her and she's just watching these fairies mess up, pretty much. And she thinks actually this little baby's going to die. So she sort of sends her raven off to help the baby and gets her bits of food and shelter and warmth while the fairies are just making a mess of it, basically. And she ends up actually forming like a bond, like a mother-daughter in a strange way relationship with this girl. And one day she really regrets putting the curse on her, because she sees what she did was wrong and she did it from pain and suffering. But because she put so much emotion into this curse, she couldn't break it. She tried to take it back and she couldn't. And, you know, she felt so bad about it. And in the story, the little girl refers to her as her fairy godmother. She thinks she's there to protect her, which in one part of it she has, but she's also the reason she's going to suffer a curse. So Maleficent's actually distraught about this and wants to save her, but doesn't know how, because she doesn't believe in true love. And she can't take the curse back. She made it so that it can't be lifted, it can't be taken away, because she did it from such a place of pain. But then she finds out that a prince has fallen in love with her. So she's like, right, fantastic. Because the inevitable does happen, and she does fall into the sleep like death. So Maleficent has to figure out a way to save her, because she does love her and she doesn't want her to suffer this fate. She finds this prince, And she gets the prince to kiss the girl, and nothing happens. So she's like, oh yeah, no, true love really doesn't exist. I've really messed up. I've really messed up this poor girl. I really have cursed her. And she's pretty much saying sorry, and she kisses her as she's basically just grieving. And that wakes her up, because Maleficent does truly love her. Because not all, I think that's a very important message as well, like not all love is boyfriend girlfriend love. It's not romantic love. Like that obviously is a form of love, and a very important one, and one clearly Maleficent doesn't believe in, which I can't blame her sometimes. But that's not what saves Aurora. It is just love, pure love, and it's the love someone has for you when they just truly deeply care for you, and she cared for her like a daughter. So you could say like a mother's love, or just deep, pure, innocent love, where you just truly love someone. And she had that love for Aurora, and it woke her up, and that was marvellous. And obviously I'm not going to get into the whole story, because that's just the main important bit, but Stefan basically still tries to destroy Maleficent, because the power's got to his head and he's kind of a bit mental. But I'm not going to ruin the whole story for you. The message of Maleficent has been conveyed that I wanted to convey. So you can see the difference in these stories of who Maleficent is. And I did read another book about Maleficent's childhood and how her parents didn't want her because she didn't look like a fairy. She had horns and she didn't have wings in the story, and she was pretty much abandoned and left for the crows to raise, and it's really sad, actually. Like, it does end up that she gets looked after and things in the end, but it's really sad. But basically, in all the stories, and including in the Brothers Grimm, she's just portrayed as evil. And there's a lot more to her. And also, I've noticed, because I've done a lot, I've read a lot, and I'm going to do more on it, folktales, there are a few where men are the bad guy, the villain. Don't get me wrong, there are some out there, and one of them is A Coat of Many Furs, which I have done. Give it a watch if you want. I love that video. I love the story. I love making it. But it's few and far between. Like, the main villain character is either a wicked stepmother, an evil queen, a wicked witch, an evil fairy. They're all female. And I don't know if this was done intentionally by the Brothers Grimm or Charles Perrault, or one of the many folklore storytellers of those ages. But it's funny how when a man seeks power or starts to destroy things as a means to an end, because there's a war for whatever reason, or he asserts control or dominance in some way, that he's being powerful, he's taking charge, he's a king, he's a leader. But when a woman does it, in any way, in any version, however you go about it, when a woman does it, they're evil, they're wicked, they're an evil witch, they're a wicked stepmother. Usually wicked stepmothers are pretty just evil, but anyone that seeks any kind of power that is a woman, or has a lot of power that is a woman in these stories, is turned into the evil villain. And I find it so interesting, because in the stories, yes, they are evil characters, but yeah, anytime in these stories, and I'm specifically talking about more older folklore, like the original folklore tales, anytime a woman is allowed to be powerful is when they're doing evil, or being cruel, or are wicked, but not when it's a man. And that is starting to change now, although the narrative of the evil stepmother, the wicked witch, is still a thing. But it is sad that how in history, and still quite a bit to this day, that any time a woman asserts any authority or power, or tries to claim her power as her own, she's seen as evil and wicked. And I think that's what the newer version of the Maleficent story that Disney actually did a pretty good job, actually, of portraying, like, you can have a lot of power and things can corrupt you and you can turn evil, or you can temporarily turn darker, which is later on, like I said at the beginning, Maleficent's, when she was young and innocent, had the more natural looking horns that were brown. After she'd suffered this betrayal from Stefan, she covers her horns up and they look more dragon-like, like the version, the cartoon Disney version that's based on a dragon. And I think that's to represent how she'd closed off her emotions and let the evil take over. You know, she'd closed off the good in her temporarily because it had got hurt, and let just more of the power and evil take over. And at the end of the film, actually, the Angelina Jolie one, she goes back to her more natural looking horns. She still does look different and a little bit darker, but that's just the evolution of her character. But horns, she goes back to wearing horns naturally, which is very nice and I think is very representational. But I think Maleficent is a very important character in having power and being viewed as evil for asserting your power and control, and how being betrayed can turn that power that was and could have originally been good into something dark. And it is a very interesting, it makes you look at it in an interesting way, like I said, about how power is when women assert power or their own authority over themselves. Sorry, I keep the thing. Their own authority over their own bodies, or any kind of power in any way. Oh, you're a bitch. You're bossy. You're mean. You're rude. But when a man does it, it's mostly in fables, but also in everyday life, like he's a boss, no, they're assertive. They're strong. They just know what they want. You see the difference? And I think it's very important to look at our views on that and see, actually, is she just being a witch with a bee, or is she just being the same as this guy, but she's female, so we're labelling her as this? I think it's very important to look at that. And I think Maleficent is a very important character, and she's one of my favourites, in case she couldn't tell. Sleeping Beauty was one of my favourite films and stories growing up. And I did always actually quite like, even though she was scary in the cartoon ones, the Maleficent character. And I always thought, why is she so upset and angry? There's got to be a reason. And obviously in the cartoon version, you don't get into the whole backstory, but in the newer Angelina Jolie version, she's given a story, she's given a background, she's given a voice, so to speak. Because people aren't inherently born evil, I don't think. I think things in their life shape them. There is obviously some nature and nurture, but the nurture is a very important aspect of it, and it does shape who we are and our experiences and how we cope with things and our support system. So I think she's a very important character in folklore and in film and in literature, in a literary sense, and literature. I tried to say that but messed it up. So yeah, that's what I found out about Maleficent and the conclusions I came to. And again, the very old version of Maleficent, which I believe is Nemesis, and I'll do a video on that poem, although it seems like a story but it's classed as a poem, I think, because it's messed up. But there are a lot of parallels to the Sleeping Beauty story and the ancient Greek poem story that contains Nemesis, and I will do a whole comparison and a whole video on that poem story soon. Let me know if you do want it though, because I'll try and get it out sooner rather than later, because I have other things that I am doing as well now. So if you do want it really bad, let me know and I'll do it sooner. If not, it will just come eventually. But it was very interesting and disturbing to read, so I'm going to have to be really careful about how I tell it. I hope you enjoyed the video. Again, I know it's probably rambly, but look where you are. Enjoy the rest of your day. I hope you all enjoyed it. If you have any Maleficent books or stories or recommendations or anything that I may have missed out about Maleficent, feel free to let me know, because I do like to learn. I do like to be corrected. I do like interacting. So if you want to do so, feel free to. And I'll see you all soon, my spooky pickles. Toodly pips.